Welcome back to the finals of the Chromatic Games Unleashed Summoner Skirmish 1. We have Jim Jam versus his Scion, Vex versus Irelia. Funnily enough, these were the two lowest seeds here. So number 7 got to choose whether to go first or second. Both players just resolving mulligans now. Okay, cool. We're back. Several turns going by. Irelia setting up for big Voltron. Stack deck going down. Scuttle Crab coming out with the entering the battlefield effect. When I play effect, sorry. Whoop, wrong card game. When you play me effect coming out for the draw. As he passes over 2 Vex with Pike on field, 5 runes up. Vex really in the tank. Thinking through whatever options there really could have right here. Just upon reviewing deck list, the Vex has a very interesting hidden package here. Gust being deployed to prevent Pike from getting the first point of the game. Vex would have really preferred having the points tempo here. Obviously, being a whole deck, making sure they're head on points all the time would have been huge. But obviously, the Irelia player knowing that gusted it back.
Also denies the Vex Legend hold draw 1, as looking at Irelia, the Scuttle Crab to have to knock the Pike off would be quite expensive and probably not worth the investment.
And as we see the Ember Monk coming down from Vex. So mentioning that unexpected hidden package here from Vex, Ember Monk's ability saying that when you play a card from hidden, give me +2 this turn, obviously helping a lot here in terms of facing up against Irelia's other huge creatures such as from Aurora. So maybe an unexpected package, but certainly a very good inclusion here for the Vex deck. We've already seen from top 4, Vex has deployed a full playset of Teemos. So when you think about it, that's a +6 on a battlefield should Irelia move in with both Ember Monk and Teemo on that same battlefield. Irelia getting their first point on the board as well with the Scuttle Crab. So we are 0-1 to Irelia. Passes the turn back after deploying Irelia out from the champion zone. Ember Monk goes in onto Targan's Peak, and we are at a tied game of 1-1. Sona coming out to hold as well. Really want to keep those runes up. Disarming Rake coming out to kill the Zonya, not the Zonyas, excuse me, Guardian Angel. Pretty huge here, making sure that Irelia doesn't have a second life. Getting any of those Zonyas, Guardian Angels, any of those recursion gear out of the battlefield. Pretty big here for Vex. One of Disarming Rake, so seeing it already, probably in his mulligan, is pretty big here for Vex. Notably here, Irelia doesn't have any green runes up, and as I say that, of course, he rips 2 straight off the top. But that means his counterspells options are a little bit limited, while he only has 2 calm runes up.
Irelia also holds the 2 here, which is 1 point above Vex, so Vex will have to move back and knock Irelia off at some point, but we have seen that he does play Emperor's Divide, so that might be the only way. And he really wants to see his hand, so he pops the Scuttle in, and we see Defy, Starcross, and a Teemo.
Pike being revealed here to get the proc off for the gold. Whenever a unit is killed here, Pike will create that exhausted gold token. Irelia taking some notes, being a good player. Irelia just looking to hold on to the point lead here, deciding to move Irelia onto the Bandit Hall with the Tide Turner. Now that most of the competitors are gone, it is very quiet right now, as both Jim Jam and his sign are thinking through their plays. It is pretty funny having seen at least 3 Yu-Gi-Oh players on the top 8. That proves that they can play with resources.
Irelia playing the Defiant dance here, so maybe looking to walk into the Targon's Peak while taking advantage of the Abandoned Hall proc +1 as well. Let's see if he has like a Ride the Wind or Boots maybe?
They're Irelia to a huge number, definitely double digits. I don't want to do the maths on that one. To do the classic Irelia double conquer here. Have all their runes up, so even if it's a Ride the Wind, they might be able to defy that one. If it's a boots, he's out of luck.
Back off would also hurt considering that he has no GA on the board, so if Irelia dies here, it would not be great for the Irelia player.
There's also existential dreads that are possible should Irelia choose to come in as well. That could swing the combat in Vex's favor. Dance does get resolved. The Irelia maths being calculated right now.
Legend does get tapped as well, so Irelia is now ready, although there are no boots and Irelia does not have ganking, so not sure how he's planning to get over there.
Moved to base and then played Ride the Wind. Yeah.
He's back to base and plays Ride the Wind, so he gets the extra +1 for the target and another +1 for the ready, instead of walking straight riding the wind when she's already ready.
Just proves that he's a better Irelia player than I am. Bought the deck off some guy for $200, played Irelia for about 2 weeks, and was like, nope, have no idea how this deck functions.
Impressed at how he's min-maxing his +1s with this deck to hopefully knock the Vex off of its hold, which is probably the only way to win this.
It is a little bit of a risk here considering he is already ahead in points tempo, but Irelia does like being more proactive than reactive. So it's not necessarily a wrong play. In fact, it might even be the correct play. I'm not in the top 4. What do I know? So clearly thinking that it's the best way to maintain point tempo. Defy straight coming out. Another Defy coming out from Vex. Oh, there's lots of counter spells going back and forth. That is incredible. All
Double
calm runes off the board.
Defy.
Just proves how
just
important
to
that combat was.
trade. Has D-ramped to only 3 now. Although I do wonder how it would be if he chose to just hold onto the Abandoned Hall, which is obviously infinite value for the Irelia player.
The Vex player does also have a gold up, which does mean that they have a little bit more counterplay wiggle room. Some calm runes up, and it's like we're back in the early game, folks. Tide Turner Boots the Swiftest. What are we, turn 1? Is holding onto that battlefield quite safely. Now up to 3 or 4 points now. So Vex now in a pretty tight bind here, needing to establish quite a big board state. Thankfully, it's just a Tide Turner for now. The Irelia having already been spent from the champion zone means that they need to find either a Stellarcorn Herder or another Irelia from the deck in order to have another target for all their pomp spells. Unfortunately, they only play the one Irelia in the champion zone, so it looks like it is just the Stellarcorn Herders in the main deck that are possible as to ride this Irelia to victory. Both these players already having gone through quite a trial today. This Summoner Skirmish having started 8 hours ago. So they're 8 hours deep into thinking about Riftbound. And if that were me, I'd be pretty cooked right now, not gonna lie. Riftbound Locator lied to me and said this started at 12 midday, but apparently it's been going since 10:30 in the morning. So that's 10.5 hours of worth of Riftbound and a lot of Swiss rounds, and it's now down to this. Of course, since it is a Summoner Skirmish, whoever wins this match will get the Rengar playmat and the Rengar promo and glory and everything else.
Bye for his next regionals, which I believe will be the Singapore RQ.
Including that, we've got some glory and some pride on the line as his scion is the defending champion of Chromatic Games Summoner Skirmishes here.
See the Fizz to pull back out this stack deck.
Vex player didn't pay the power cost for equipping boots.
Gold. He paid a gold.
Yeah, he did. Irelia really thinking whether they want that Stellarcorn on board right now, I think. It's going in base, whatever it is.
To play stack deck from Fizz though, not the most value you can get out of all the cards that could be played from Fizz, so he must be looking for answers, looking at his very small hand size.
Vex going in on the abandoned hall. Showdown under consideration and resolved. Coming down as well. Once again, trying to establish a comfortable hold position. He is still behind in points tempo, which is not where the Vex really wants to be here. Fortunately, he might be able to hold against Irelia, considering both these units currently on board for Irelia are not great targets for any combat tricks. Prefer a Stellarcorn Herder to be able to deploy those. Decides instead to go on with the Fizz onto Targon's Peak, bringing scores to 3-5 in Aurelia's favour.
And shouting out to the chat who are all meowing. I only have one thing to say to them, which is meow.
Vex looking through the other player's trash. Will not find any treasures he likes in there. Since my co-caster gave a shout out, I will give a shout out. Just before this Summoner Skirmish, I was at a friend's birthday. Happy birthday, Michael. Once again, you're a legend. No worries, mate. Star-crossed for the Fizz and the Vex, obviously a huge amount of value there from the Irelia player, being able to redeploy Fizz for another Star-crossed at will. Chat, look, I love you, but like, we just missed like 2 minutes worth of game. So I'm going to concentrate on what's actually happening and what's actually important here. Fizz getting redeployed by Irelia. Probably looking maybe for another Starcrossed if he wants to try to get Pike off to accomplish another conquer. Indeed, it will be the Starcrossed power with the Fizz and the Pike. Teemo being revealed here up to 4 might just to hold on to the Abandoned Hall. Heavily DRAM'd for that one though, because deployed 2 Fizzes and 2 Starcrossed. That's a lot of Chaos runes being put at the bottom of the rune pile. Here now with a pretty sizable rune advantage and card advantage, but unfortunately still behind in points tempo. So Vex is still behind in point tempo at 3 to Irelia's 5 right now. Really needs to start double conquering. Chooses to do so with the Boots of Swiftness on the Teemo. Conquering the Target's Peak does give Vex a little bit more breathing room with deploying runes here. At the end of turn, being able to have 2. Vex then choosing to deploy a hidden card at the Abandoned Hall. And at Target's Peak, producing a conundrum for the Irelia player. Which battlefield do they choose? Generally speaking, you'd probably expect the Irelia player to try to go into the Abandoned Hall with the number of combat tricks they have in their deck. But being presented with 2 hidden cards and knowing that Vex does have quite a sizable hidden package means that it's probably maybe a Teemo, who knows. Really, there's Teemo, Evelyn, or maybe an Emperor's Divide. Emperor's Divide at both battlefields making a lot of sense to come back. Also being very bad for the Irelia player if the Vex chooses to use it at the end of all the combat chains. A single Tide Turner, the Tide Turner that can, going in on the Abandoned Hall. Irelia holding priority, holding focus, I should say, sorry. Deploying the Defiant Dance, targeting the Tide Turner, and it's still choosing targets here. Will, of course, be Pike. So the -2, +2, 4 might swing going through. Abandoned Hall will make that actually a 5-point swing. Passes focus over. It is another Teemo. That's 4 might. Currently, though, it is just a trade. Tide Turner at 5.
I think Liang has another problem.
Yeah, Irelia needs to deploy another combat trick here in order to win this combat. This is probably the most important combat of the game if Irelia can't get onto this battlefield. It is just a trade. Irelia now really needs to find the Stellarcorn herders in order to even have a chance. Tide Turner being deployed just for a unit on board. As the turn passes back to Vex. Vex getting 2 cards this turn, which is absolutely huge to maintain that card advantage using the legend ability. The card advantage and rune advantage clearly in Vex's favor now, meaning that being able to lock out Irelia should be pretty easy from this point. Irelia not really having any of the board presence that they need to be able to break Vex's board. Vex now deep in the tank, thinking about the best ways to hold that Targon's Peak, or if they want to try to even get in front of the points total. Evelyn is absolutely crushing here, making sure that the Tide Turner can't be used for any shenanigans on Aurelia's own turn, forcing them into the showdown early. Flash coming out from Irelia to save the Tide Turner from the showdown. Again for the 6th, the double conquer coming out from Vex is huge. Obviously feeling safe enough to be able to extend his resources to both battlefields. The Tide Turner and Flash now being out of hand means that that's just one less tool there for the Irelia once they do get the Stellarcorn out. And once again, Vex presents, or does he? Don't know. Might swap. Who knows? But it looks like he will present another puzzle for Irelia. Which battlefield do you choose, sir? Both battlefields have hidden cards that you don't know about. That can just be flipped at any time at reaction speed. Fizz coming back out, probably looking at that Star-Crossed here to continue getting value out from Fizz. Oh, it will be the Defiant Dance, actually. Star-Cross wasn't there because it got recycled from the last Fizz. But Defiant Dance coming in to buff the Time Turner and make the Pike smaller. Sorry, Vex smaller.
Noting that he does have to pay the deflect, so deramping a lot here.
On guard coming out for another +2. The Aurelia really needs this point here to try to save this game 1. Evelyn gets revealed once again, enabling the trade. Fizz is exhausted, can't move on to the battlefield, and Vex is looking at going up to 7. With the Teemo on the Abandoned Hall. Yep, that's it. That seals it for game 1. Both players now looking at sideboards. The Teemo being revealed after the charm to move the Teemo back as a last Hail Mary play to try to stop Jim Jam from going to 8 points. But being able to hold onto the Abandoned Hall for the hold to 7 and then conquering Targon's Peak will seal it there for the Vex player. Both of them looking at the sideboards now.
I wonder if the game would be different if his Scion decides not to walk into the Targon's Peak and keeps his Irelia on the Abandoned Hall just for the hold for the win.
Indeed, yes. It does look like that the decision to try to extend the point lead there from the Irelia player was probably the mistake there. He was already ahead and just needed to hold Abandoned Hall with all combat tricks up to maintain it. But once again, I am not the one in the finals, so what do I know? Vex probably sighting in a couple of the disarming rakes there, looking to get rid of some of the gears that are super important for the Irelia, and maybe the Abandon as well.
Switcheroo would also hurt once Irelia buffs up to like big numbers, especially double digits, and then one switcheroo could throw everything off balance. Noting that switcheroo is 2 power cost, so you cannot defy it, and not so fast or hard bargain would be your only answers to that.
Though the Irelia does have both one hard bargain and a not so fast, both on the sideboard, so probably looking to side those in when it comes to this counterspell, big counterspell fights. Also probably looking at another rebuke to not even get into the combat due to the Vex cheerless effect, taxing all of his spells. Being able to rebuke that off the battlefield before he even commits would be pretty huge. Spring and Target's Peak coming out from the Irelia player. Starspring, for those that didn't join us for top 8, lets you return a unit to base when you play a non-token unit to that battlefield. So for the Vex player, very useful for trying to maintain units when Irelia has simply too much might for you in those combats.
You can also use Starspring, however, because Starspring counts as a target, so on that target you may exhaust your Irelia legend.
Players have resolved their mulligans. Irelia going first, having lost the first game, deploys a Spottle Crab and passes back to opponent. Another 2-drop, the Mutated Mouser with Shield 2 and Tank is pretty big for Vex decks. The tank really making sure to keep any of those important Vexes safe when trying to hold a battlefield. The Scuttle Crab will go on the Target's Peak, bringing Irelia to 1 point.
Feeling safe to put the Stellarcorn down, knowing that he can ready 2 off Target's Peak.
Vex, now thinking about it, I reckon the play is pretty simple. It's just move the Mouser onto the other battlefield, but, you know, what do I know?
The other choice Vex has is to walk the Mouser straight into the Scuttle, but having to opt to reveal his hand, but he will be able to ready 2 runes at the end of his turn and prevent the hold point that his sign will get from holding with Scuttle.
It is a little bit of a trade-off there for resources with the hand knowledge versus rune resources, and the point obviously as well. The main thing with Stellarcorn being up, it might not be worth trading that card advantage for the runes. Gust coming out for the Mouser, going in on to the Starspring, and point successfully denied. Vex being deployed from the champion zone. Irelia now holding up to 2. Pretty difficult. Irelia now getting the double conquer indeed with the Stellarcorn move. Irelia not even needing to deploy any of the gears or combat tricks here in order to successfully pull that off is pretty rough here for the Vex. Vex needs to really get that mutated Mouser back, or even a bigger unit on board in order to combat both these units before the Irelia gets too far ahead. Tide Turner being deployed to trigger Celicorn again for even more card advantage over Vex. Scuttle Crab being moved back as well in order to try to hold the ability, the Death Knell ability, for a more opportune time. Vex now has a conundrum about whether to try and clear some of these units off or simply take the easy point. Knowing that the Irelia deck is built around combat tricks, being able to potentially use some of them proactively on a unit that is less valuable might be the choice here, as Vex does move on to the Starspring and scores him his first point. The Irelia player choosing instead to hold those valuable combat tricks and gear for a better target here. Vex now, of course, trying to build a fortress around the Starspring, choosing not to move the Vex back on the Starspring trigger. The Irelia player might be having a little bit of deja vu here with a hidden card being deployed at the Starspring as well. Moving in for the easy conquer up to 4. And Irelia decides it's go time. Irelia Fervent coming out from the champion zone.
No GA though, so if that is an Evelyn hidden, it would look like some trouble, considering especially that there is a Vex Cheerless on the board, so every buff spell that he plays will have to cost more.
A hidden Evelyn here would be huge for Vex to be able to try to get ahead of the Irelia, make sure that they have to deploy their cards in a non-optimal manner here.
We saw last game, a game without Irelia is very, very difficult to close out the game, having not many other big units that you can efficiently use your buff spells on.
Vex just in the tank, thinking about it, whether to deploy any other threats to the Starspring. As we can see from the overhead cam, there is another mutated Mouser in hand, should they choose to develop that fortress even further. They do, and they do use the trigger, so Vex Cheerless is off the battlefield, trying to go in on the Stellarcorn. Vex really trying to reclaim some of that point tempo at 1 to 4. I believe that the Irelia player has it right now, which is not a choice I personally would make, because the Irelia players generally do have it. Instead, does let the Stellarcorn die, and Vex will go up to 2. Jim Jam now forcing the Irelia into the big mutated Mouser battlefield is huge here. Having already tried to test Aurelia's hand with the Vex move, does successfully get a not so fast out from the Irelia player, which is defied, and another defy coming out. Here comes all the counterspells. The Irelia player really wanting to make sure. Here's another third defy out from Vex. Fourth defy coming out. That is incredible. I don't know if they have enough runes. That is a lot of calm runes being recycled here. Irelia player really trying to make sure that they can hold on to Irelia. Otherwise, as we saw last game, he will not have a very fun time later on, trying to make sure they can hold on to it. That was a lot of counterspells, ladies and gentlemen. That is 2 from one player, 1 from the other, and not so fast as well from the Irelia player, which means that the switcheroos are a lot better right now. Yet another hidden card going underneath the Star Spring. Just making sure the board state is legal. We saw a lot of counterspells just go down. Vex trying to spend as many of Irelia's resources as possible, trying to make sure that that combat was in their favor, but unable to seal the deal. Irelia living another day. Vex now is just kind of hoping that Irelia doesn't have it. Otherwise, because both these boards look pretty vulnerable, there is the hidden card on the Star Spring that does present a little bit more of a threat for the Irelia. Scuttle Crab going in just for to look at the opponent's hand. Discipline, Defy, a Starcrossed. Unfortunate for the Vex. Could have sealed the deal if he had one more Calm Rune in that Counterspell War. That is incredibly sad, I must say, having fought so hard for it. Though does present a nice wrinkle, but will de-ramp the Vex down to 1 because of the deflect from Irelia should they choose to deploy it on the Irelia.
Yeah, and just look at
Didn't catch what the hidden card actually was, but I'm sure the Irelia player knows. Well, Irelia deep in the tank, trying to really calculate out the lines on how best to apply his gear and combat tricks here. Irelia really dependent on keeping the champion Irelia alive as much as possible.
So earlier though, Defy cannot be played as we're missing a Calm Rune, but we have Starcross and Discipline that can be played.
Vex's players' hands are cold. This is unfortunately just part of card games. You just have to wait until someone decides to make a move. Discipline coming out of combat. Just to draw a card, probably.
Guess will be that he's planning to walk into the Vex tier list and deciding not to pay the extra and wanting to knock the Vex tier list off, which does prove to be a bit of a problem for him.
I think we can safely say that the Irelia player is in a pretty precarious position here. Decides eventually to go in on the Vex battlefield. Seven does mean that the Irelia player will win this combat and is choosing to walk into the discipline in the Vex's player's hand that they do know about. Player now presented with the conundrum that they know about the discipline and whether there's going to be yet more counterspells coming out for the discipline. Instead, chooses to deploy the Starcross, which is pretty difficult with the deflect from Irelia. That'll deramp down to 1, obviously placing a huge importance on this combat.
Not a bad time to use it though, because the Vex tier list helps to drop the power down to 1 and recycle 1 less for the deflect.
More defies coming out from both
Yeah,
players.
somehow we've seen all 6 defies in this game, I believe.
For the Vex player, not having calm rooms really punishing here. Otherwise, could have deployed that defy from hand. But that is the last defy in the game, ladies and gentlemen. Irelia looking to maintain points momentum here, as they will conquer up to 5. I love being in the tank. The tank is my natural position, as both players are deep in it. Just passing, choosing to keep all their runes up for the inevitable Irelia crashing through the front door. Notably having calm runes 4 and not so fast.
Guardian Angel finally coming out. Let's hope we don't see another disarming rake again.
Boots as soon as coming out, which is obviously one of Aurelia's big power spikes, being able to gank over from battlefield to battlefield and establish those double conquers and close out the game quick. The Aurelia player does pass, meaning that Vex does get the hold up to 4 as he readies all his runes.
Vex also helping to build back up his hand size to a sizable amount after being left with just 1 lonely defy last time.
Legend ability from Vex coming in clutch, making sure that he can keep up with card advantage from his opponent. At this point, it really is a resource war from between both players. A single defy only being in the Vex player's hand. Evelyn being deployed now to Targan's Peak just for another point.
Ember Monk coming out to proc the Star Spring, which does get +2 for every hidden, so we'll see if he has any more hidden tricks up his sleeve.
Yes, if anyone's also confused about how Evelyn seemed to jump straight from Star Spring to Targan's Peak, it was the Star Spring effect that moved the Evelyn to base when the Ember Monk was played onto that battlefield.
He has another scuttle though, so if he wants to walk in to see the hidden cards, he does have that option, and to also double check the sizable hand amount he has drawn up. Seeing
Irelia
two hidden cards that the Ember Monk does get a sizable buff from it.
Player checking what Ember Monk does, I don't blame him. That thing is from Origins, and only Teemo players really play that card. Now being forced to reveal his hand, it is indeed the switcheroo.
Pike on the other side.
The gold coming in because a unit did die at a battlefield while Pike was there. Notably, Pike does not have to be at the same battlefield as the unit dying.
See there the buff coming onto the Ember Monk, the +2 from the Pike being revealed.
Irelia now being presented with a very difficult double conquer here, knowing that there's a switcheroo at one of them. Doesn't want to pump his combat might too high before proccing that, should they choose to try to double conquer.
Did see one not so fast being used already, so not sure if he has it in his hand, but less chance of it being there, so the switcheroo, there's not much he can do about it.
Moving on to the Star Spring, thinking about the actions. Choosing instead just to proc the GA and trade out for the 2 mouses.
Looks like he's going to attach the boot onto Irelia and tap the legend to ready her, probably what he was saving the boot target for instead of attaching before he crashes into the Ember Monk.
Both players big fans of Armored Warfare, both in the tank. If you like that joke, I see you. Switcheroo goes off. Notably, the Ember Monk will trigger before the switcheroo resolves. So I'm really hoping that Ember Monk's might is a lot lower than Irelia's. Judge stepping in just to clarify. So that means Irelia is even bigger, I believe. Judge will clarify it. I'm not a judge. It looks like it has been clarified. Irelia is at lower might for the discipline to come out. We're looking at a pretty huge Ember Monk here. Discipline going down for the Ember Monk as well. I guess just to clarify, that means that it's only once the switcheroo has resolved is when the Ember Monk gets the +2. So the switcheroo will occur first, switch the mites of the Irelia and the Ember Monk, and then the Ember Monk would get the +2. There is a lot of counting of might here. I don't know where it's all coming from. Defiant Front comes in for a 4-might swing. Sorry, because of the Irelia stuff. This is why I'm not an
6
Irelia
to 5
fan.
comes out of this game, and finally having the calm room to be able to do it. But there is a second Defiant dance coming out onto this combat showdown.
Both players being super careful about their cards, really pumping up their card advantage to the maximum to try to ensure that these crucial combats are as contested as possible. Ember Monk is still pretty big here. Counting on dice, so I don't know what their current might is. Players now absolutely confused about what their groceries cost as they're going through all their runes. Given the number of calm runes that got recycled this game, they probably should get like $30 back from Coles. It does look like a scoop. I assume we're going to game 3. Yeah, we're going to game 3, 1-1. Incredible scenes. Lots of counter spells. One player continued to play, the other one was like, wait, my Coles receipts are kind of weird here.
Coming into game 3, the battlefield should be Star-Tipped and Sunken Temple.
Players now consulting the sideboards after game 2. Probably looking for more counterspells in from the Irelia player from the sideboard, if those counterspell wars were anything to go by. Just as a reminder for everyone, top 8 is untimed. As predicted, because they were already 2 games deep, it is Star Tip Peak and Sunken Temple. Star Tip Peak, when you hold here, Channel 1 Rune Exhausted, incredibly good for Vex, obviously looking to hold as much as possible. Vex going first this game, having lost in game 2. Evelyn here being deployed here at turn 1. 3 runes up for Irelia. Just a Tide Turner and pass, of course, in Riftbound. Tempo being the name of the game here. Making sure you have a first turn play, incredibly important. First point of the game will go to Vex. Vex did swap back his champion for going first again to Vex Apathetic. Just as a reminder, Vex Apathetic stuns and make sure that any units deployed that turn by their opponent cannot move. To establish a hold here early onto the Star Tip Peak, try and get as much advantage in runes and cards as possible from both the legend and the battlefield being chosen here. Tide Turner going in and a Defiant Dance being deployed straight up, trying to get rid of this hold early.
The most shocking thing is, well, he is tapped out, and if he does manage to grab the hold, he will get the rune channel and the draw. But we do see a Teemo get played out here. Hopefully there's any other buff spell for him.
Top 8 Teemo being revealed from hidden. Ashen OCE currently in Vancouver. Because the weekend's over, I can't remember.
Comes out here. Hopefully also tops deck anything else that could help his case here. I'm not sure if that's enough. 6, 2, 4, 8.
A second Defiant Dance being deployed here. A lot of resources being used early to ensure that Vex can't have that hold. And he does win it. Now, clearly on the back foot here to try to establish another board presence before Irelia can come out. Irelia did deramp only to 2 runes though, so there is a little bit of an opportunity here.
Get the extra channel from start tip to peak here though, so not as bad as it could be.
In disbelief that 2 Defiant Dances got deployed in turn 2.
Stellacorn coming out to see if he can build back his hand size after popping 2 Defiant Dances and a Discipline already, so maybe he's looking for more buff spells.
Cornerstone of all hold decks here, making sure you always have resources up once you pass the turn. Exactly 4 runes will awaken 4 Vex, ready for any shenanigans that come out from Irelia. To the combat earlier, Irelia does have point tempo lead 3-2 in front of Vex. Vex now in a pretty difficult position to try to win this game. Will need to, at some point, break Aurelia's board somehow. Aurelia thinking through their options here. Obviously, the Stellacorn is the more preferable target for any buffs or boots of swiftness, that kind of thing. Just due to the move ability, getting some extra value out of it. Tide Turner not as much of a priority target here. Could also deploy the Irelia champion should they think they have enough time and the protection up for her.
Saw last game, 1 Evelyn, and it could put him in a pretty rough position, especially considering that 5 to deploy her and leaving him only 2 runes up to play with. He puts down the Irelia anyway, and I assume that's a GA coming down? Yes, it is.
Vex getting the hold trigger and the Star Trip trigger from Legend and Battlefield will accelerate him forward quite a bit. Still does need to make up the point difference at only being 3-3 off the hold. Vex now being used to double conquer to get in front of the points tempo. Choosing to do it before the Irelia has a chance to come out. But obviously that means that Vex is in a pretty precarious position if he intends to double hold.
Hidden comes onto the board, but his sign has no scuttle crab to check what he's walking into this time around.
Treasure Hunter and Pike just trying to build up more of a fortress here on Star Tip Peak. Not to try to get any more value out of the move effect from Treasure Hunter. Not looking for any gold, any exhausted gold. He just wants to hold on to the damn thing. Here comes Irelia through the front door, starting the combat showdown. No actions from Irelia. Switcheroo comes through. Yeah. To absolutely blow out the Irelia here. Irelia in disbelief at what Switcheroo could possibly do. Has to have a not so fast here. Otherwise the Switcheroo will go through. I think we're about to see another big counterspell wall here, gentlemen. And ladies, sorry. And other people. Ooh, interesting. Star-crossed, trying to ensure that the Switcheroo miss targets. Because once the Star-crossed resolves and puts the Treasure Hunter back in hand, there's the Defy for the Star-crossed. And another Defy. As that one is over, Treasure Hunter return to hand. Switcheroo will not work because it will miss target since the Treasure Hunter is no longer on field. Irelia getting pumped once again with the Discipline. Just for the card advantage, making sure that he gets every little ounce of it out and passes back to the Vex player. Vex will nope out of this combat, has been thoroughly punished, and will try to maintain units on board, pushes back both his sonar and the pike back to base before combat damage can go through. One rune up for the Irelia player as they pass to Vex. One rune for Irelia is still pretty dangerous. Has enough for Defy or an On Guard or something similar.
Defiant Dance, although we've seen 2 played already. So what are the chances his 3rd is in there?
Vex still in an okay position here, holding onto the point tempo because Sona was on the Sunken Temple. To try to go in on his own terms. Vex and Pike stacked deck, the last rune used, looking for more answers here, or simply more units. Bits of swiftness on the Vex, really seeing a lot of value here, being able to gank straight across. Vex player going in real hard on that, deploying all his treasure hunters, notably 2 energy for 1 might, but really, really trying to hold on to at least 1 battlefield here.
GA coming out so that his Scion can crash in and keep his Irelia alive still. But on the Sona battlefield, I think that is a hidden card and we don't know what it is, so it could be scaring walking into that as well.
As we've seen already, switcheroos, Teemos even have been huge in this matchup. A lot of counter spells going down over these hidden spells.
Does have 1 more social warrior if he has decided to slide that one in, even though we've already seen 1 be played.
Irelia calculating if it's worth trying to put Irelia into the stacked battlefield. Vex presenting 11 might on that stacked battlefield to Irelia to try to solve. Irelia notably does need to regain points tempo here. So it does need a double conquer at some point. Irelia choosing just to pop the GA and trade out with some of the units. Recalls back to base exhausted.
Boots here to ready his Irelia again. Tapping the legend here on the target. Straight back into the battlefield. Knock the Vex off the hold.
An even score. If he can manage to get over to the Sunken Temple, Irelia will have regained the point tempo and put Vex in a terrible position coming into this late game. A Vex without a hold at 6 to 7 points for at least one of the players is in a pretty precarious position.
Coming out. Let's see what he's looking to play with it. Oh, the Star-Crossed. Star-Crossed coming out to knock the Sonar off, but the Defy comes out.
Here, the Fizz Starcross should still get recycled, I believe, because of the delayed trigger. I'm not a judge, so what do I know?
It's revealed last turn, I believe, so he's back to 1.
Vex is still holding on to the point lead here. Moving Sona with the Boots of Swiftness here. Vex is on 7, so going in for this last battlefield will mean the game for him, but unfortunately is unable to seal the deal. And the team are moving over with the Boots will seal it. GGs are called. Jim Jam is the winner of Chromatic Games Unleashed Summoner Skirmish 1 here today. Unfortunate for his side, could not defend his title, but Jim Jam will enjoy a very nice shiny Rengar playmat with his Rengar promo for being champion of this Summoner Skirmish. Of course, we'll probably be looking at another Summoner Skirmish 2 later on in Unleashed next month. But for now, that is it for us here at Chromatic Games. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed the rest of your night. We'll catch you next time.